What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of Behind the Edit. This is a series of videos that I'm making where I share my process on how I edit some photos, some concert photos, some other types of photos. In this case, I'm going to use concert photos of an event that I shot last week. If you guys want to see the behind the scenes of that video, you can go ahead and look at the blogs. It's called BTS, so it's kind of another series of videos I'm making. But it's from Los Temerarios. If you're Mexican or Latino, your dad or your mom should know about them. I only had 3 songs to shoot this event, and some events are like that. You know, every artist is different, and we try to do the best with what we have. So I picked the best photos that I want to share with you guys. So let's go into the computer and talk to you guys about kind of like my thought and my process on editing this photo. So let's just jump into the computer and let's get it. All right, so I'm here in Lightroom Classic Ready. I picked 11 photos. We're not gonna edit all of them. We're just gonna copy settings to a lot of those photos just because I want to show you how, you know, the settings, they work all together throughout the concert based on lighting scenarios. I want to let you know that the outcome of your photo is gonna be based a lot in the production of the artist and kind of like looking at the lighting and just seeing what you're working with when you're shooting. It's a huge thing. Thankfully for Los Temerarios, they had an amazing production and screens and whatnot. So let's go into the edit. The first photo, the first thing I do, I just pretty much I cut it, just make sure that's straight. Let me see, I'm trying to put in the middle. I'm basing myself on the stage, so that kind of looks good. Probably gonna go to transform, just because I know, you know, the chromatic aberration sometimes. Where is it? The lens. Here we're gonna go auto. What about vertical level? Let's go auto. Auto is fine. I think it does a good job. Now with technology, it's perfect. So now the first thing that I work on, it's my S curve. This is where I control my shadows, my midtones, and my highlights. So I'm gonna do an S. So you can see when I push down, you can see how it brings more color, and with the highlights, it also just brings more, like, a lot of people call it sharpness. It's not really sharpness, it's just more contrast, and I just think it looks really punchy. I really want to emphasize the color here, so I'm gonna go a little bit warmer tones, contrast overall. I'm gonna lift my shadows a little bit, just because I want to bring a little bit back. So shadows here. As you guys know, I like my green tint a little bit. That's kind of like my thing. So we can start seeing them before and after. I'm definitely gonna add some vibrance and a little bit of saturation. I want to remove the yellow color. I want to make it more like reddish. So definitely gonna push the yellow towards orange, the orange towards red, and the red a little bit towards, the red is gonna leave there fine. So you can see a little bit of the before and after. So now the next thing I do, I mean, you can play here with your colors just to see how they affect the image. I already know where I'm going for, like the specific color, so I'm good there. Now I want to work kind of like a more color grading creative look. I love in concerts adding a little bit of aqua here on the highlights, just because, I don't know, I just like the look. It's personal. In shadows, I'm gonna add a little bit of, you know what, I don't need it in shadows. Let's see what it does here on midtones. So you can see the reds and midtones. Ooh, I like the punch of that. Just a little bit. Here we can see the before and after. Kind of happy with that. Here in sharpness, I only, you know, focus on like the edges, because if I add sharpness to the whole image, it's just gonna, you know, add sharpness to the noise as well. So here I only did it on the edges, and you do it by going to masking, and in my computer and my Mac is this option. So that's kind of what it is. So I'm gonna do a little bit of vignetting, make the image a little bit towards green, and I like it. I'm happy with that. You can see the before and after. This one's I'm gonna just paste the same just because of the colors, or maybe I'm gonna use one of my LUTs that I have here. Let's see, red fire. So I'm gonna start with this. I'm gonna go 4 or 5. I'm gonna put it on the center, and then I know the contrast is too much, so I'm gonna start working there. So like I'm gonna go to my curves, and then I'm gonna just lift my shadow areas a little bit more. I like that. I'm gonna play with the tones here on the warmth. I want it warm, but I still want to add a little bit of blue tint to the light. It's subtle, but I just like it. It does make a difference here. And we do clarity, do a little bit of saturation. So here, like the skin tones, they're popping too much for me, for my liking for this photo. So I'm probably just gonna bring down the oranges a little bit. Keep the red. And then I'm gonna try to shape this image a little bit more. So here we have my mask that I already made previously. It's subtle, but if you turn it off, what I'm trying to do is just send more, attention to him. To Gustavo, if I'm not mistaken, that's his name. But the same here, like you can see some lights on the top right, and I want to remove them. So probably I just even make it this one a little bit, like turning it like that a little bit, So that's the before and after. And I like the shape of that photo actually. So I'm just gonna leave it like that. So the same thing, I know this next 3 photos, they kind of have the same because it was the same lighting setup. So I'm gonna just paste it here. It looks pretty good on the adjustments. I think I want to just add a little bit more contrast here, more punch, just because that's kind of what I'm going for with them. It's just I don't know, I just feel that they have amazing lighting, so it just makes me feel that I'm there. I don't know why. And then let's look at the mask here. So here on this mask, something that I did was with the brush. I'm gonna do it again. I'm gonna delete it so you guys can see. So here there is a lot of information and a lot of things that I don't want to show, and I don't want to remove distraction from him. So what I do, I just create a mask, brush, and then I'm just gonna create like just the parts when I want to remove exposure. And this is good to like shaping your image, There's a lot of things that you don't want to show. And now if you can see the before and after, before, like this was kind of distraction. After, you could see that that's where the focus is gonna be. That's where I want the focus to be. We can even create a gradient one here, just a tiny bit, maybe let's see, just maybe a tiny bit. It's not even necessary really. Well, it's fine, just a tiny bit, just to add a little bit more contrast. And here I want to add more blue into the highlights. That's just, like I said, just personal preference. So here I'm just gonna punch in a little bit more. You can see here on the jacket where it's affecting it. And this is just to create contrast, color contrast in between the reds and the highlights. Is kind of like color contrast. You can even see it here, how the midtones are like more towards the red and the highlights are more towards the blue, and it's creating that opposite contrast that I feel it looks really appealing to me. I'm just gonna bring in a little bit of highlights. So I just worked on the sharpness right there. Let's see. I'm gonna go here, zoom in a little bit, look at my highlights, lights, just a little bit. Yeah, that looks good. I like it. So as I said before and after, I really like how this photo came out. All right, so this photo, as you guys can see, the color that just pretty much has more power in this image, it's purple and magenta. I'm not really a big fan, but sometimes, I like to be saturated because that's kind of how it was in the concert. So that's what we're gonna do here. So same process here. Let's start with the contrast with the S curve here. So let's bring down, even just by bringing down the shadows, you can see how it just starts popping. And then bring down the highlights a little bit more. I want to emphasize here the magenta. So now you can see it's a little bit blown out, and this happens a lot because the spotlight, it's really on him. So super subtle, not a lot of people will notice, but I'm gonna just go to the highlights and just bring it down a tiny bit. No, it doesn't affect anything, it's just the lights. Just bring it down a tiny bit just so we can see his face a little bit, even though you're not gonna see it from far away, but still looks pretty punchy, which I really like. So I'm gonna bring a little bit more of, let's say, shadows here. Let's say, what about contrast? I like it. Okay, so the before and after is looking good. So I'm gonna emphasize magenta. So I'm just playing with the tones here, with the temperature, so you can see when it goes warmer, it just magnifies the color, and I really like that. So even though the before and after, you can see how it just makes it more, pushy, which I really like. But I'm gonna put it just in the middle, just to create kind of like contrast between magenta and blue. Add a little bit of clarity here. Probably gonna create a mask, just a linear gradient here, linear gradient, just to bring out a little bit of the exposure on them, on the audience, just to create a little bit of texture there. And I'm going to do the vignette to see if I can just close these parts on the photo, just accentuate a little bit. I like it. So that's a before and after. I really like this photo, it looks pretty good. Maybe I want to see my saturation. Where am I? I'm gonna add a little bit more vibrance and saturation to the image. I love how it looks. So this one's kind of trippy. This is kind of hard because there's not a lot of contrast, and this happens when there's a lot of haze. But I see, what I really like is the contrast between the red and the blues that you see on the lights. So, let's start with this. We're gonna do 4x5. You know what? I'm gonna just remove this light a little bit. Just put it more on the center. So let's start with the curve. This is gonna be a tricky one. You're gonna see a lot of, change on this one. So I'm bringing down the shadows a little bit, like a lot, just so I can bring that contrast. You can see that before and after. And just, pop the highlights a little bit. Play with the curves. Not every S curve is gonna be the same for every photo. That's why every photo, it's different. You see, I'm not putting too much, like, I'm not trying to burn the skin on him. So I'm just gonna probably leave it there and probably work on midtones. Now it's the same. So I like that. Then I'm gonna play with temperature, and this, I remember I kind of like I said, the contrast between the red and the blue. So I'm gonna emphasize on the blues a little bit. So I'm gonna leave it there, a little bit more contrast, bring down highlights here. Clarity for sure. I'm gonna go here and focus on the lights a little bit because I think there's just too much on him. I like that. So now let's play with the blues. I'm just moving, like I said, you can move them just to see how far they can go without breaking. But I just want to create that emphasizing part on the highlights. Beautiful. Here you can play with the brightness of the color. Like I said, light affects a lot of how color is going to look. So you can see, like, I'm impacting only the highlights, and I want to do the blue look, so it's going to be a little bit like this. The midtones, I'm going to just leave the midtones alone, and then I'm going to just add more blue to this. And then I'm going to go up and add a little bit of warmth to the image. Just a tiny bit. So I really like how that looks. As the last part, I'm gonna just do my sharpness. Boom. And then here, there's distracting areas, I'm sorry, like this, right? So I'm just gonna do a mask. So right here. And then I'm gonna just I don't wanna bring that all the exposure, but just so it doesn't look like super distracting, So that's it before and after. You can see, remember, it's where you drive the attention. I might even do another mask now that I'm looking at it. I'm just gonna do a brush and probably like here. I like how that looks. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. And just to end, this is what I mean where magenta comes in. I wanted to do a photo where it's black and white. Sometimes black and white for me, it's a tool It also depends on the feelings, but it also gives me kind of like a old school vibe, but it gives you a lot of information and a different perspective. The reason why I go with black and white in this photo specifically, it's because of the magenta. The magenta, that's why I don't like it. When it's as a key light, when it's an action light, it looks great, but here it just doesn't help. Not enough warmth, and it's just pretty much leading the whole image. So if I just go and remove the magenta, like desaturate the purple and the magenta, it just looks So personal decision, and I really like black and white. Really, I'm gonna go black and white, so you can actually go to the top instead of desaturating everything and just click black and white, and it just makes the image black and white. What I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just add contrast. I'm gonna go to the curves again, and then that's it. I still want to keep that detail, so I will look into those details in his head, like the lighting. You can see a little bit on his cheeks if I move the light, you know, it just brings a little bit of detail. What I'm gonna do, even though it's black and white, so there's a lot of contrast, and I like contrast really. So for this image, because you know the whole concert they had a lot of contrast and a lot of saturation. So another thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna just add another mask. So I'm gonna go for a brush just to remove these distractions. You know, that to me looks good. I like how that looks. There's enough information on him, but still tells you a little bit of story of how it was in the other concert. And I'm just gonna copy the settings, and it's gonna be the same for this photo. Same, because there's a lot of purple, and you know, I don't like this, but it actually, there's a lot of distractions in my opinion in this photo, just by the way it is. But when you do black and white, if I paste the settings, it just gives you like a whole more information of what happened that day. There's more to look at, like more interesting photo. Before it was so distracting, but now you can really focus on what was going on. Like you can see the amount of people, and I think that's a great tool with black and white. It just kind of like reveals more. It kind of doesn't make sense, but it kind of does at the same time. So, you know, that's kind of how I really like to use black and white. I think there's specific tool for specific scenario, and this is that one scenario where I use black and white. All right guys, so that's it for this video. I hope you guys like it. Please give it a thumbs up. This really helps to push more of the content to more people that want to learn about photography. Let me know what you guys think about this type of videos. Let me know in the comments if you guys have any questions. Please subscribe if you haven't already, if you're really into photography, videography. Besides just giving this kind of tutorials, I talk about like the gear that I use and stuff like that. And also I share a lot of my behind the scenes as a creative entrepreneur, because I do way more than just filmmaking and photography. So go ahead and look at those videos. And that's it. I hope you guys enjoy. See you on the next one. Stay creative and just practice. Take your time, learn something new, practice, and that's how you evolve. So stay safe.